February 19th, 1945, 14:30 hours. Off the coast of Iwo Jima, USS New Jersey fires her main battery, 9 16-inch guns erupting simultaneously. The broadside shakes the battleship like an earthquake rolling through steel. The sound is not heard so much as felt, a physical force that compresses lungs and rattles teeth and reminds every man aboard that they are standing on 57,000 tons of American firepower made manifest. 9 Mark 8 armor-piercing shells arc across 6 miles of Pacific Ocean. Each shell weighs 2,700 pounds. Each carries secrets that took 3 years to perfect. Each represents a promise made in grief over apple pie and coffee after Pearl Harbor. Each embodies the understanding that American engineering can answer Japanese advantages if given enough time and enough desperation and enough refusal to accept that impossible means anything permanent. The shells strike Japanese fortified positions on Mount Suribachi. Do not explode on impact. Do not detonate against concrete and volcanic rock. Instead, they disappear, punch through 60 feet of layered defenses like ghosts passing through walls, like physics operating at velocities where solid matter becomes fluid, like precision defeating mass in ways Japanese engineers never imagined when they designed these fortifications to withstand anything America could throw at them. Then deep underground where no armor protects the delayed fuse's trigger, 33 milliseconds after penetration. Exactly as designed, 40 pounds of explosive D detonating simultaneously in confined chambers that multiply destructive force through compression. The explosions are contained, directed, devastating. The entire hillside shudders. Magazine detonations follow, secondary explosions, ammunition cooking off in chain reactions, fire and smoke, and the end of Japanese defensive doctrine based on depth and hardness, and the belief that enough concrete stops anything. American Marines watching from landing craft 700 yards offshore see the mountain move, see it convulse and collapse like a living thing dying. They do not understand what they are witnessing, do not know about metallurgy or delayed fuses or promises made 3 years ago in Maryland kitchens. They only know that American naval gunfire just made their impossible assault slightly less impossible, that someone somewhere created weapons that work, that engineering serves them even when they cannot see it or name it or thank the men who made it possible. This shell was designed by a naval engineer who promised his wife he would ensure no American sailor ever died helpless again. An American who spent 3 years solving the physics of penetration that killed Japanese battleship supremacy before those battleships could kill more American sailors. An American who collaborated with British metallurgists to create ammunition that turned armor into liability rather than protection. An American who carried his brother-in-law's last letter through every test and failure and breakthrough. An American who understood that some promises matter more than anything else. Freeze frame. Go back. 3 years earlier. Before the shells existed. Before the physics was solved. Before American innovation proved that precision defeats mass. Before promises made in grief became weapons made in laboratories. Go back to Annapolis, Maryland. December 7th, 1941. To where every impossible thing starts, with someone refusing to accept that helplessness is permanent, with someone understanding that grief can become purpose, with someone making a promise over cooling apple pie that will change how naval warfare works. December 7th, 1941, Annapolis, Maryland, the Harrison House on King George Street. Commander William Harrison stands at his kitchen window watching December rain fall on the Naval Academy across Spa Creek. 36 years old, Naval Gun Factory metallurgist, Annapolis class of 1930. Spent 11 years understanding how metal behaves under impossible stress, how steel fails and why, how to make armor-piercing shells that penetrate instead of shatter, how to solve problems that kill sailors when unsolved. He grew up in Baltimore, Chesapeake Bay country. Father worked Bethlehem Steel shipyard for 32 years, building destroyers and cruisers from raw steel. Watched battleships take shape from nothing. Understood from childhood that American naval power rests on metallurgy as much as strategy. First in family to attend Naval Academy. Chose ordnance and material science over command at sea. Wanted to make weapons rather than fire them. Wanted to solve problems in laboratories where failures cost time rather than lives. The kitchen smells like Sunday morning frozen at the moment everything changed. Elizabeth had fried bacon for breakfast, thick strips that crackled and popped in the cast iron skillet, the kind that fills the house with smoke and salt and the promise of normal weekends. The bacon grease still coats the pan, still smells like Saturday mornings and Sunday afternoons and American peace about to end. Apple pie sits on the counter cooling. Elizabeth's specialty, her mother's recipe. Cinnamon and butter and sweetness wrapped in flaky crust that shatters under fork pressure. The lattice top still steaming slightly. The smell mixing with bacon and coffee and December rain, and the voice on the radio describing catastrophe. Coffee percolates on the stove. That rhythmic sound, 3 bubbles then pause. 3 bubbles then pause. The smell fills the small kitchen. Rich, dark. The kind of coffee that costs more now because everything costs more now that war came to America, whether America was ready or not. The percolator sits on low heat, keeping coffee hot for a Sunday afternoon that will never be normal again. The sound becomes metronome, marking time between the world before Pearl Harbor and the world after. Elizabeth Harrison sits at the kitchen table, 34 years old, nurse at Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore, handles trauma and blood and death professionally every day, saves lives through competence and care and the understanding that medicine is applied compassion, but cannot save her brother, cannot help him, cannot do anything except sit in Maryland kitchen listening to radio, describe her brother dying 4,000 miles away, while bacon grease congeals and apple pie cools and coffee percolates like nothing happened. The telegram will arrive tomorrow. Official. Cold. We regret to inform. But the radio tells them now. USS Arizona sunk. Catastrophic casualties. Forward magazines exploded. 1,100 men dead in minutes. No survivors from forward sections. Tom was forward gunnery control. Tom is gone. The war is 6 hours old and Elizabeth's brother is already dead, and American unpreparedness is measured in bodies, in sunken ships, in families destroyed. Lieutenant Thomas Bennett, 28 years old, Elizabeth's younger brother, the one she helped raise after their mother died when Elizabeth was 16 and Tom was 10, the one who followed her to Maryland, who joined Navy because family served, who was supposed to be safe on battleship in Hawaii, who wrote letters about Arizona's impressive armor, who wondered in his last letter whether American metallurgy was ready for war everyone saw coming, who died before that question was answered, who died in the first minutes learning that armor alone is insufficient when strategy fails and vigilance lapses and enemies strike first. Bill holds Elizabeth while she cries, silent. What do you say when your wife's brother dies in the first minutes of war that will consume years? What promises can you make when helplessness is all you feel? What words exist for grief, this fresh, and rage, this impotent, and understanding that everything just changed forever? The radio continues. Detailed reports arriving. Oklahoma capsized. 1,500 tons of oil burning on harbor surface. West Virginia sinking. California flooding. Nevada beached. Tennessee trapped. Maryland damaged. Pennsylvania in dry dock survived. The Pacific Fleet is dying while America listens. While families across the country understand that telegrams are coming. While the nation transitions from peace to war in the time it takes to destroy ships that took years to build. Elizabeth speaks through tears. Voice steady, but steadiness costs everything she has. Tom died on the best battleship we had. Died on ship that was supposed to be safe. Died because we were not ready. Because our ships were not protected. Because we did not see it coming. Bill, you understand armor. You understand how to make ships survive. You understand metallurgy and penetration and all the physics that keeps sailors alive or kills them. Promise me something. Promise me no more American sailors die helpless like Tom died. Promise me you will make our ships able to fight back. Promise me you will make our shells work. Promise me Tom's death means something. Bill looks at his wife, at Elizabeth, who saves lives at Johns Hopkins, who works 16-hour shifts during the polio epidemic 2 years ago, who does not ask for things lightly, who does not make requests she does not mean, who is asking him to change naval warfare because her brother died in its first moments, who is asking him to keep a promise that seems impossible, but must be possible because the alternative is accepting that America's sailors keep dying helplessly. Outside December, rain falls on Annapolis, on the Naval Academy where midshipmen are learning that peacetime training just became wartime preparation. On Chesapeake Bay, where American shipyards will soon work 3 shifts building the fleet that will avenge this day. On Maryland, that will send its sons to war, like every state will send its sons. On America, that just learned what modern warfare costs when enemies strike first and preparation is inadequate, and promises made must become promises kept. Bill makes the promise, not because he knows how to keep it, because keeping it matters more than knowing how. I will find a way. I will make shells that kill Japanese battleships before they kill more Americans. I will ensure that when we fight back, our weapons work. I will make sure American metallurgy answers this. I promise you. I promise Tom. I promise every sailor who died today that American engineering will answer this attack, that we will build weapons that make Japanese advantages meaningless, that precision will defeat mass, that innovation will overcome tradition, that American metallurgy will be ready next time, even though it was not ready today. He does not know this promise will require 3 years of work that breaks him down and builds him back up. Does not know he will need to collaborate with British scientists across an ocean. Does not know the solution requires special steel alloys and delayed fuses in testing that fails repeatedly before succeeding. Does not know Mark 8 will never face Yamato in the surface duel everyone expects. Does not know the promise will be kept in ways no one can imagine on this December afternoon, while apple pie cools and coffee percolates and America burns. He only knows he promised, in their kitchen, on the day Pearl Harbor burned, with Elizabeth crying for her brother, with bacon grease congealing in cast iron and apple pie cooling on the counter and coffee percolating like the world did not just change, with the understanding that promises matter, that family matters, that Americans do not accept helplessness when helplessness means dying without fighting back. Elizabeth shows him Tom's last letter, arrived 3 days ago, dated November 30th, before the world divided into before Pearl Harbor and after Pearl Harbor, before everything changed, before questions became urgent rather than academic. The letter is folded carefully, read and reread, creased from Elizabeth's hands. Tom's handwriting is neat, officer precise. The words are casual, but the question underneath is not. Tell Bill that Arizona's armor is impressive, 140 millimeters on the belt. But I wonder if it is enough. Japanese are building battleships larger than ours. Yamato-class rumors are concerning bigger guns, thicker armor. If we fight them, will our shells penetrate? Will our armor hold? Tell Bill to make sure American metallurgy is ready, because I think this war is coming, whether Washington wants it or not. Tell him to work hard on armor problems. Tell him sailors are counting on him, even if sailors do not know his name. Bill folds the letter carefully, places it in his wallet. We'll carry it through 3 years of development, through every failure and breakthrough, through collaboration with British metallurgists, through testing at Dahlgren Proving Ground, through everything that leads to February 1945 when Mark 8 shells collapsed Japanese fortifications at Iwo Jima, through everything that proves promises made in grief become weapons made in laboratories when promises matter enough. The promise was made in Annapolis kitchen over apple pie on December 7, 1941. The promise was kept in Pacific Ocean when shells designed by Bill Harrison penetrated concrete and steel, and Japanese confidence in depth as protection. 3 years, one promise, one metallurgist, one collaboration between American and British science, one solution to Japanese defensive superiority that arrived through precision rather than mass, through innovation rather than imitation, through understanding that changing the rules matters more than playing by enemy assumptions. That evening, they eat dinner in silence. The apple pie Elizabeth made, the bacon from breakfast reheated, coffee that has been percolating all day, American food that tastes like ashes because Tom will never taste American food again. Because somewhere in Hawaii, Harbor Tom's body floats in oil slick or burns in Arizona's hull or rests in compartments that will become tomb. The food is there, but appetite is not. Eating is mechanical, necessary, joyless. Elizabeth speaks once during dinner, voice quiet. Before the war, before today, we had normal life. Saturday afternoons at baseball games, Orioles at Memorial Stadium. Hot dogs and Coca-Cola in the bleachers. Sunday drives in your Ford. Ice cream at drugstore on Main Street. Tom visiting on leave. Playing catch in the backyard. Normal American life. That is gone now. War took it. Japanese took it. But Bill, listen to me. Your promise is not about revenge. It is about restoration. About making sure other families keep their normal life. About bringing sailors home so they can eat hot dogs at baseball games and drink Coca-Cola at drugstores and play catch with their children. That is what your metallurgy serves. Not killing. Protecting. Not destroying. Preserving. Remember that when work gets hard, Bill will remember through every failure, through every test that produces shells that shatter or fuses that malfunction or metallurgy that proves inadequate, through every moment when quitting seems reasonable. He will remember that his work serves families, serves normal American life, serves hot dogs at baseball games and Coca-Cola at drugstores, and brothers playing catch in backyards. Serves the America that Japanese attack threatened, serves the promise made to Elizabeth, serves Tom's memory, serves all of it. The next morning, Bill receives orders. Report to Naval Gun Factory, Washington, D.C. Army Ordnance Corps needs metallurgists, needs engineers who understand armor and penetration and the physics of killing ships, needs solutions to Japanese battleship problem, needs weapons that work because weapons that do not work get American sailors killed. He kisses Elizabeth goodbye at Annapolis Station. The small platform. Rain still falling. Gray December morning. Soldiers everywhere already. Recruiting stations overwhelmed. America mobilizing. The peacetime nation becoming wartime nation in hours. Young men who were playing baseball yesterday putting on uniforms today. Normal life suspended. War beginning. Elizabeth holds him tight. Whispers words that will sustain him through 3 years of work. Keep your promise. Make shells that work. Bring them home. Bring all of them home if you can. That is what American engineering is for. Not building better cars or taller buildings. Bringing our boys home alive. Remember that when you want to quit. Remember Tom wondering if our metallurgy was ready. Remember this kitchen. Remember this promise. Remember that families are counting on you, even though families do not know your name. The train to Washington carries Bill and his promise and Tom's last letter and the weight of understanding that what he does in laboratories will determine whether American sailors live or die in battles not yet fought. The train moves through Maryland countryside, through towns mobilizing, through landscape that looks peaceful but is preparing for war, through America that just learned what modern conflict costs and is paying that price in blood and ships and brothers who will not come home. January 1942, Naval Gun Factory, Washington, D.C., Anacostia River. The factory sits on the river. Brick buildings, testing grounds, metallurgy laboratories where problems are solved through science rather than courage. The smell is distinctive. Hot metal from foundries, chemical treatments, cordite from test firings. The smell of weapons being perfected for war that has no patience for failure. Intelligence reports cover every wall. Japanese battleship capabilities laid bare. Yamato, Musashi, 72,000 tons displacement, 18-inch main guns firing shells that weigh 3,200 pounds, armor belts 16 inches thick, face hardened, sloped. These ships are larger than anything America has afloat, built in secret during the 1930s while America slept. Designed to defeat American Pacific Fleet through pure superiority of mass and protection. Captain Robert Chen briefs the assembled engineers. 42 years old, San Francisco native, Chinese-American in Navy that rarely promotes Chinese-Americans to command. Career officer who overcame prejudice through competence, so obvious that even prejudice could not deny it. Gunnery specialist, recently rotated from Pacific Fleet to Washington because his expertise is needed here more than at sea. The briefing room is crowded. Engineers from universities, metallurgists from steel companies, ordnance experts from Army and Navy, all assembled because Pearl Harbor proved that American weapons were inadequate, and inadequate weapons get Americans killed. And killed Americans demand that inadequacy be corrected immediately. Chen speaks without notes. He does not need notes. He has been thinking about this problem since he first saw intelligence estimates of Yamato's armor 2 years ago. Gentlemen, we face a problem that will determine whether we win or lose the Pacific War. Japanese battleships are better armored than any ships we can currently penetrate reliably with existing ammunition. Our standard armor-piercing shells are inadequate. Tests against simulated Japanese armor show our shells either shatter on impact or explode prematurely before reaching vital areas. We are bringing inadequate weapons to fight where the enemy has superior armor and bigger guns. That is how sailors die. That is how wars are lost. That is what you will fix. He displays photographs, captured intelligence, Japanese armor cross-sections, face-hardened steel, 16 inches of protection designed specifically to defeat American 14-inch and 16-inch guns using captured samples of American ammunition to optimize defensive characteristics. German Krupp metallurgy helping Japanese design. Sophisticated layering. This is not a problem that brute force solves. This is a problem that requires thinking differently. Bill studies the photographs with understanding born from 11 years of metallurgy. Japanese engineers did excellent work, created armor system that exploits every weakness in American shell design. Standard armor-piercing shells explode on contact with face-hardened armor. The hardened outer layer shatters the shell nose. The explosive charge detonates against armor rather than inside the ship. Energy is wasted deforming steel that does not matter. The ship survives, the shell fails. American sailors die because American metallurgy is inadequate. Chen continues. His voice carries weight of understanding what failure costs. We are building Iowa-class battleships. 4 ships, Iowa, New Jersey, Missouri, Wisconsin, 16-inch guns. These will be the finest battleships America has ever produced. But fine ships need ammunition that works. We need shells that penetrate Japanese armor and detonate inside where it matters, where armor cannot protect, where Japanese engineering cannot save them. That is what you will create here. That is why you were brought to Washington instead of being sent to fight, because making weapons that work is as important as using weapons that work. The room is silent. Understanding settling over engineers who thought they were here to improve existing designs. Now they understand. They are here to create something new, something revolutionary, something that makes Japanese armor irrelevant through superior metallurgy rather than superior mass. Something that changes the rules rather than playing by Japanese assumptions. Bill volunteers to lead the metallurgy team, has expertise from Baltimore Steel background, from father who built ships for 3 decades, from 11 years studying how metal behaves under extreme conditions, has motivation deeper than professional duty, has promise made to Elizabeth over apple pie, has memory of Tom dying on Arizona, has understanding that this is personal as much as professional, has Tom's letter and wallet asking whether American metallurgy is ready, has 3 years to answer that question with shells instead of words. Chen assigns him team of 12 engineers, best metallurgists Navy could find, from universities, from steel companies, from research laboratories, all understanding that what they create here determines whether American sailors live or die, whether promises are kept or broken, whether Tom's question is answered or remains forever unanswered because American metallurgy remained inadequate while more sailors died. The work begins immediately, January 1942, while America is still reeling, while Pacific Fleet is still salvaging ships from Pearl Harbor, while families are still receiving telegrams, while the war is young and American defeat seems possible and Japanese victory seems plausible, and everything depends on whether American innovation can overcome Japanese preparation. March 1942. Bill receives orders. Anglo-American Technical Exchange. Report to Royal Arsenal, Woolwich, England. Official mission share American Naval Gunnery Intelligence. Real mission learn what British are developing for their own armor-piercing needs. Determine if collaboration produces better results than competition. Understand whether allied partnership can create weapons neither nation can perfect alone. The Atlantic crossing is dangerous. German submarines hunt. Ships sink daily. Convoys lose vessels. But Bill's transport arrives safely. England appears through morning mist. Green fields, stone villages, ancient country fighting its 3rd major war in 30 years. Weary, determined, undefeated but bleeding badly, needing American help. American resources, American manufacturing, but proud, stubborn, brilliant, with scientific traditions predating American independence. Dr. Henry Matthews meets Bill at Woolwich Arsenal, 52 years old, Cambridge metallurgist. Wire glasses, tweedy academic appearance hiding sharp practical mind, British Reserve concealing genuine enthusiasm for solving impossible problems. Working on armor-piercing shells since 1939 when Bismarck proved British shells inadequate. Frustrated by same limitations Americans face. Wants solutions. Willing to collaborate. Understanding that British science plus American manufacturing might equal German defeat. Matthews shows Bill something remarkable in secured laboratory. Cross-section of failed British armor-piercing shell, shattered against German armor plate during Bismarck engagement. Metallurgical analysis revealing exactly why failure happened. The steel composition was wrong. Heat treatment inadequate. Shell behaved like brittle ceramic rather than tough metal under impact stress. Broke instead of penetrating. Failed instead of succeeding. Killed British sailors instead of German sailors because metallurgy was inadequate. Matthews explains with academic precision that mass emotional investment. The problem is fundamental. Conventional shells use steel optimized for strength, but strength and toughness are different material properties with different requirements. Strong materials resist deformation. Tough materials resist fracture. Against face-hardened armor, we need toughness more than strength. Shell must deform without shattering, must penetrate through armor by creating plug rather than fragmenting on impact, must survive impact shock that conventional steel cannot withstand, must be harder than armor it strikes, but tougher than conventional shell steel. Very difficult metallurgical challenge. Bill understands immediately. This aligns perfectly with everything Naval Gun Factory discovered. American shells fail for same reasons British shells fail. Both nations using inadequate metallurgy, both trying to solve problem with bigger shells rather than smarter composition. Both assuming that matching enemy armor thickness is necessary when actually negating enemy armor is sufficient. What if we use different steel alloy altogether? Something with hardness exceeding armor, hardness but toughness exceeding conventional shell toughness, something that punches through armor like metal, punch through paper rather than shattering like glass against stone. Matthews smiles. British Reserve cracking slightly. Genuine excitement breaking through. Exactly what I have been exploring for 2 years. High carbon steel base, chromium additions for hardenability, molybdenum for toughness, nickel for ductility, heat treated through very specific protocol to achieve surface hardness without core brittleness. Create shell that is harder than any armor, but tougher than any previous shell. Create projectile that penetrates rather than shatters. That is theory. Making it work in practice has been difficult. They spend 6 weeks collaborating. British theoretical metallurgy meeting, American practical testing capability. Matthews has concepts developed through Cambridge research and British Admiralty requirements. Bill has access to American steel mills and testing facilities that British lack. Together, they develop alloy composition that neither could perfect alone. Special steel, precise heat treatment, manufacturing process that produces shells harder than armor while tough enough to survive impact without fragmenting. But composition is only half the solution. The other half is fuse design. Matthews explains the breakthrough British ordnance engineers achieved. Delayed action fuse. Revolutionary concept. Instead of detonating on contact like conventional shells, fuse delays explosion by precise time interval after penetration. Shell punches through armor, continues into ship interior through bulkheads and decks, only detonates deep inside where maximum damage occurs, where armor cannot protect, where Japanese cannot defend. Bill calculates implications immediately. Delayed fuse means shell penetrates armor belt, continues through internal compartments, reaches machinery spaces or magazines below waterline, then detonates in confined space where explosive force cannot escape, creates catastrophic damage, flooding, secondary explosions, structural failure. The ship destroys itself from within through damage no armor prevents. This is brilliant, absolutely brilliant. How reliable is the fuse mechanism? Can it withstand impact shock without premature detonation? Can it trigger precisely after penetration rather than before or never? Matthews hedges. British honesty about limitations. Theory is sound. Physics is correct. Um, Initial testing shows promise, but we have not perfected timing mechanism. Need fuse that withstands impact deceleration exceeding 20,000 gravities without premature detonation. Then triggers precisely 33 milliseconds after impact regardless of penetration angle or shell velocity or armor thickness. Very difficult mechanical engineering problem requiring precision manufacturing we cannot achieve at scale. Bill commits American resources without hesitation. This is what collaboration means. British innovation meeting, American manufacturing. Matthews has the concept. America has the factories and precision machining and quality control. Naval Gun Factory will perfect the fuse. We'll test against simulated Japanese armor. We'll manufacture shells incorporating British metallurgy and American fusing. Partnership. Anglo-American alliance made real through engineering. Neither nation alone defeats Japanese battleships. Together, they will create weapon that makes armor irrelevant. Together, they answer Tom's question about whether American metallurgy is ready. By June 1942, they have preliminary design on paper. Mark 8 APC. Specification. 2,700 pounds total weight. Special steel alloy body forged to precise composition. Carefully shaped nose optimized for penetration angle. Delayed action fuse calibrated for 33 milliseconds after impact. Explosive charge 40 pounds. Explosive D positioned for maximum effect in confined spaces below waterline where no armor protects and damage becomes catastrophic. The design exists. Now comes everything else. Making it work. Testing it. Manufacturing it. Proving it. Answering Tom's question not with theory, but with shells that penetrate Japanese armor and detonate inside Japanese battleships and bring American sailors home alive, because American metallurgy is finally ready. October 15, 1943. Naval Proving Ground, Dahlgren, Virginia. The armor plate is massive, 16 inches of face-hardened steel mounted on frame that simulates Japanese battleship structure. Exact replica based on intelligence estimates of Yamato's protection. Behind the main armor backing plates, structural steel simulated internal bulkheads. Everything engineered to match Japanese construction down to rivet patterns and frame spacing. This is not approximation. This is Japanese battleship armor recreated on Virginia testing ground so American shells can learn to kill it. Bill Harrison stands with testing team in observation bunker. 22 months since promise made in Annapolis kitchen. 22 months of failures. Shells that shattered. Fuses that malfunctioned. Alloys that proved inadequate. Every failure teaching lessons. Every setback revealing what does not work. Every test bringing them closer to solution through elimination of everything that fails. Dard Matthews flew from England to observe. Crossing Atlantic in wartime is dangerous, but this test matters enough to risk U-boats. Captain Chen represents Bureau of Ordnance. His presence means Navy takes this seriously. Civilian engineers from Bethlehem Steel and Republic Steel. Military observers from Pacific Fleet who need to know whether this works. Everyone understanding this test determines whether 2 years of work succeeded or failed, whether promises can be kept or must be broken, whether Tom's question finally gets answered. The test gun is 16-inch 50 caliber, same weapon mounted on Iowa-class battleships under construction in Philadelphia and Newport News. Gun position 22 miles from target, simulating long-range naval engagement. Maximum practical distance where armor-piercing shells maintain effectiveness. The distance where Iowa would fight Yamato. Where American metallurgy either defeats Japanese armor or fails trying. Where physics and precision and 2 years of collaboration either work or prove inadequate. First Mark 8 shell is loaded. 2,700 pounds of American steel and British innovation and promises made in grief. Red band marks it experimental. Propellant charge precisely calculated. Not maximum, not minimum. Exact amount to achieve 2,500 feet per second at impact. Fast enough to penetrate. Slow enough to prevent a shell breakup from excessive velocity. The gun fires. Sound is enormous even from bunker. Concussion wave ripples across testing ground, shaking observation windows. Shell traces invisible arc across Virginia countryside. 22 miles, 40 seconds flight time. Enough time to wonder if 2 years was wasted. Enough time to remember Elizabeth crying. Enough time to think about Tom dying on Arizona because American metallurgy was not ready. Enough time to understand that everything depends on next 40 seconds of physics operating at velocities where theory meets reality. The shell strikes armor plate at precisely calculated angle. 30 degrees, obliquity simulating long-range plunging fire. Not perpendicular impact, but angled strike. Harder penetration. More realistic combat conditions. The kind of hit Iowa would make on Yamato at 20,000 yards. No metallic clang of deflection, no shower of sparks from ricochet, no shattering of shell against armor. The Mark 8 punches through 16 inches of face-hardened steel like a needle through fabric, creates circular plug of armor, exactly shell diameter, that rides through with the penetrator, continues through backing plates, through simulated bulkheads, through structural steel, deeper and deeper into target structure, while delayed fuse counts milliseconds. Precisely 33 milliseconds after initial impact, deep inside simulated ship structure, the fuse triggers. 40 pounds of explosive D detonates in confined space. The explosion is contained and directed by surrounding steel. Force cannot escape upward or sideways. Goes into destroying internal structure the way explosives work when physics has nowhere else to put the energy. Frames buckle, plates rupture, simulated machinery spaces devastated. If this was real, battleship flooding would be uncontrollable. Secondary explosions would follow as magazines cooked off. Ship would die from within where no armor protects. The observers go completely silent, not from disappointment, from awe mixed with understanding of what they just witnessed, from recognition that fundamental change in naval warfare just occurred on Virginia testing ground. That armor is no longer protection. That armor is now liability, creating confined space that multiplies explosive force. That Japanese battleship design philosophy just became obsolete through American metallurgy and British innovation and collaboration that neither nation could achieve alone. Matthews speaks first. British Reserve completely abandoned by genuine excitement. Good God, that is extraordinary. Utterly extraordinary. Penetration characteristics exceed all theoretical calculations. The plugging effect worked perfectly. Shell created hole and rode through it without fragmenting. Delayed detonation precisely timed. Internal damage catastrophic. This is revolutionary. This changes everything. Chen's response is more practical but equally impressed. Voice carrying weight of understanding what this means for Pacific Fleet. We just killed Yamato, on paper, in simulation, in theory made real, but that shell performance would gut any battleship afloat. Japanese have no defense against this. None whatsoever. Their armor is worse than useless. Actually works against them. Creates the confined space that makes our explosive charge devastating. Their protection becomes their prison. This is what we needed. This is what the fleet needs. This is what wins the war. Bill thinks about Elizabeth, about Tom, about promise made December 7th, 1941, about 22 months of work that felt endless, about collaboration with Matthews that produced what neither American nor British engineers could create separately, about failures that taught as much as successes, about this moment when impossible becomes possible, when theory becomes reality, when promises approach being kept. The promise is being kept. Tom's question is being answered. American metallurgy is ready, finally ready, 2 years late to save Tom, but ready to save thousands who follow. Ready to make Japanese battleship armor meaningless. Ready to prove that precision defeats mass. That innovation overcomes tradition. That American engineering answers Japanese advantages when given time and resources, and refusal to accept that impossible means permanent. They test 12 more rounds that day. 11 penetrate successfully. 1 shatters from manufacturing defect. 92% the success rate is acceptable for experimental ammunition. Production shells will be better. Quality control will improve. But even 92% means Iowa can kill Yamato. Means American sailors get weapons that work. Means promises made can be promises kept. That evening, Bill calls Elizabeth from Dahlgren. Cannot explain details over phone, operational security, but tells her what matters. It works. The shells work. Everything we hoped for. Tom's question is answered. American metallurgy is ready. Not ready in time for Tom, but ready for everyone who follows. Ready to keep the promise I made you. Ready to bring them home. Elizabeth cries on the phone. Not grief this time. Relief, understanding that her brother's death contributed to weapons that save American lives. That Tom's question drove Bill through 2 years of work. That promises made in grief become solutions made in laboratories when promises matter enough. That the war is not over, but American engineering is finally ready to fight it properly. January 1944. Philadelphia Naval Shipyard, USS New Jersey commissioning ceremony. New Jersey is second Iowa-class battleship commissioned. 57,000 tons fully loaded, 887 feet long. 9 16-inch guns in 3 turrets. Most powerful surface combatant America has ever produced. Most advanced metallurgy. Most sophisticated fire control. Most effective armor-piercing ammunition. Everything America learned from Pearl Harbor concentrated into one ship designed to dominate any surface engagement. Bill attends commissioning. Watches ship that will carry his shells into combat. Steel made real. Theory made operational. Promises approaching fulfillment. The battleship sits at dock like embodiment of American industrial might. Gray paint, gun barrels elevated and ready for war. Ready to answer December 7, 1941, with superior firepower and superior ammunition and superior understanding that technology serves people when technology works. Captain Chen commands New Jersey's gunnery department. Requested Bill personally deliver initial allocation of Mark 8 shells. Wants connection between laboratory and combat. Wants crews to understand these shells are not just ammunition. They are promises. They are 2 years of work. They are answer to Tom's question. They are metallurgy made lethal. Wooden crates arrive by truck convoy. 30 Mark 8 shells. First combat allocation. Small number because production is limited. Tungsten carbide components are scarce. Precision machining is time-consuming. Quality control cannot be rushed when single defect means failure that wastes irreplaceable ammunition and possibly costs American lives through malfunction at critical moment. Chen gathers gunnery crews in mess hall. Young men mostly, 18 to 25 years old. Sailors who will fire shells Bill designed. Sailors whose lives depend on whether metallurgy works under combat stress. The mess hall smells like military food. Fried chicken today, mashed potatoes, corn on the cob. The sounds of American boys eating American food before sailing to fight Japanese who killed their friends at Pearl Harbor. Forks on metal trays. Conversation. Laughter. The normalcy they are fighting to preserve. The American abundance that Japanese attack threatened. Bill understands suddenly that these shells protect this. Protect young men eating fried chicken in Philadelphia shipyard. Protect America feeding her sons before sending them to war. Protect the country that can manufacture battleships and precision ammunition and feed crews fried chicken all simultaneously. That abundance is weapon as much as metallurgy. That understanding that you fight for country that takes care of you matters as much as understanding that your weapons work. Chen introduces Bill to assembled crews, explains what makes Mark 8 special without revealing classified details. Delayed fuse, superior penetration, designed specifically to kill Japanese battleships, use only against capital ships, reserved for Yamato and Musashi. Do not waste on cruisers or shore targets. These shells exist for one purpose. Kill Japanese battle wagons that killed Americans at Pearl Harbor. Make armor irrelevant. Make Japanese engineering advantages meaningless. Bring American sailors home alive. Bill speaks to crews assembled in mess hall, chooses words carefully, wants them to understand without frightening them, wants confidence without arrogance. These shells represent 2 years of work by teams in America and Britain. Best metallurgy we can produce. Best fusing we can manufacture. They will penetrate any armor afloat. Will detonate inside enemy ships where armor cannot protect. When you fire these at Japanese battleships, you are firing promises made after Pearl Harbor. Promises that American engineering defeats Japanese advantages. Promises that no American sailor dies helpless again because weapons failed. Promises that you come home because we gave you tools that work. The crews understand instinctively. War is personal, even when fought with industrial weapons. Technology serves people. These shells connect Maryland Laboratory to Pacific combat, connect metallurgists who lost brother-in-law to sailors who might die without superior ammunition, connect promises made in grief to weapons made with precision, connect past and present and future through understanding that bringing people home matters more than technical specifications. New Jersey deploys February 1944, joins Pacific Fleet at Majuro, participates in carrier task force operations, provides anti-aircraft protection for carriers, conducts shore bombardments against bypassed Japanese garrisons, steams thousands of miles, burns thousands of gallons of fuel, waits for surface engagement that will test Mark 8 against Japanese battleships. That engagement everyone expects. That decisive clash of steel titans that pre-war naval doctrine demanded. That battle where American shells either work or fail. Where promises are either kept or broken. Where 2 years of metallurgy either proves adequate or proves insufficient. But Japanese strategy has changed. After Midway destroyed their carriers. After understanding American industrial superiority means material war favors America. After calculating that preserving force for final decisive battle makes more sense than risking everything in battles America can afford to lose. Japanese battleships avoid surface combat, stay in port, preserve fuel, wait for opportunity that never comes under conditions they prefer, pull back deeper into defensive perimeter, conserve strength, delay inevitable while Americans advance steadily westward. Months pass, New Jersey operates across Pacific, Marshalls, Marianas, Carolines, covers amphibious landings, bombards Japanese positions, destroys shore installations, does everything except fight Japanese battleships. Mark 8 shells remain loaded in magazines, red-banded, ready, unfired, promise waiting to be tested, metallurgy waiting to prove itself. 2 years of work sitting unused while Japanese refuse the battle American preparation designed for. Chen's frustration grows. So does Bill's from Washington, where he monitors reports. 2 years creating perfect ammunition for battle that does not happen. Technology perfected for engagement, enemy avoids. Preparation complete, but opportunity absent. War is like this sometimes. Waiting, endless waiting punctuated by moments of terror. Mostly waiting while wondering if preparation will ever face testing that gives it meaning. Bill writes Elizabeth regularly. Cannot explain operational details, but frustration comes through despite censorship. Our weapons work. Tested thoroughly. Proven conclusively. Ready for employment. But enemy will not fight the way we expected. Technology alone is insufficient without opportunity to use it. Need Japanese to engage on terms where our advantages matter. That opportunity will come eventually. War does not allow permanent avoidance. But waiting is difficult when preparation is complete and promise approaches fulfillment, but circumstances prevent final step. June 19, 1944. Battle of Philippine Sea. The Great Marianas Turkey Shoot. American intelligence confirms Japanese battleships with carrier task force. Yamato, Musashi, Nagato, Congo. The targets Mark 8 was designed to kill. New Jersey and Iowa are with American carrier force. Armed with Mark 8, ready. This should be the moment. The surface duel, the test, the fulfillment. But Admiral Spruance prioritizes protecting American carriers over seeking surface engagement. Japanese launch massive airstrikes attempting to destroy American carriers. American pilots intercept, destroy Japanese aircraft in numbers that shock even American commanders. Over 300 Japanese planes shot down in single day. Japanese carrier aviation destroyed as effective force. Turkey shoot because Japanese pilots are inadequately trained and American pilots are veterans, and technology favors America decisively. But battleships stay out of gun range. Refuse surface combat. Japanese admirals understand that meeting Iowa means dying. That American ammunition probably improved even if Japanese intelligence does not know details. That risking battleships in surface engagement when carriers are being destroyed makes no strategic sense. Withdraw. Preserve force. Survive to fight another day that never comes. Chen's frustration is profound. So is Bill's receiving reports in Washington. 3 years of work. Perfect ammunition. Loaded and ready. Enemy in area. but no surface engagement, no test. Japanese will not cooperate, will not fight battle American preparation designed for. Technology is ready, but opportunity is absent, and frustration of almost having chance makes it worse than never having chance at all. Bill writes Elizabeth that evening. Letter arrives 2 weeks later. We were close, very close. Japanese battleships were there. Our ships were ready, ammunition loaded, everything prepared. But the battle did not develop the way we hoped. Carriers and aircraft dominated. Surface ships stayed separated. The decisive engagement everyone expected did not occur. Technology waits for opportunity. Promise waits for fulfillment issues. Both wait for circumstances that allow testing under proper conditions. Patience is difficult but necessary. The moment will come. It must come eventually because Japanese cannot avoid us forever. But privately, Bill wonders if Mark 8 will ever face its intended target. If Yamato will ever meet Iowa in surface duel that naval architects designed for, and metallurgists prepared for, and sailors trained for. If 2 years of work will ever be tested the way it was meant to be tested. If promise will be kept the way it was meant to be kept. If Tom's question will be answered in combat rather than just in testing. October 23, 1944, Battle of Leyte Gulf approaches. Largest naval battle in history about to unfold. Japanese Admiral Kurita brings everything. Yamato, Musashi, Nagato, Kongo, Haruna. Heaviest concentration of Japanese battleships since war began. Plan is audacious and desperate simultaneously. Break through American defenses. Destroy invasion fleet at Leyte Gulf. Change war's trajectory through decisive victory. All or nothing. Last chance. Final gamble. Everything Japanese Navy has left committed to one operation because alternatives are all worse. American intelligence tracks Japanese fleet approaching through multiple routes. Complex operation. Multiple task forces. Opportunities for confusion and mistakes. Chen's, New Jersey is with Admiral Halsey's Third Fleet. Fast battleships. Iowa, New Jersey, Alabama, Massachusetts, South Dakota, Washington. Most powerful surface force America has ever assembled. Mark 8 shells loaded, ready. This is finally the moment. The test, the surface engagement everyone prepared for. The battle where American metallurgy either proves itself or fails. Where promises either get kept or broken. Where 2 years of work either matters or proves inadequate. October 24th. American aircraft attack Kurita's fleet in Sibuyan Sea. Wave after wave. Dive bombers, torpedo planes, coordinated strikes. Musashi receives devastating attention. Hours of bombing and torpedoing. 20 torpedo hits. 17 bomb hits. Damage that should sink battleship in minutes takes hours because Musashi is that well built. Finally sinks that evening, taking over 1,000 crew with her. 1 Yamato-class battleship destroyed. Japanese superiority reduced. But destroyed by aircraft, not by gunfire. Not by Mark 8 shells sitting unfired in New Jersey's magazines 20 miles away. Bill receives reports at Naval Gun Factory. Feels conflicting emotions swirling. Relief that Musashi is dead. Frustration that shells designed for this target went unused. Understanding that modern warfare has changed faster than doctrine predicted. That carriers and aircraft dominate in ways battleship admirals did not foresee. That surface combat is receding into history even as preparation for it reaches perfection. That technology sometimes arrives too late for war it was designed to fight. That night, Kurita's battered fleet regroups. Despite Musashi's loss, still formidable force, including Yamato, presses through San Bernardino Strait, heading for Leyte Gulf. This should be a moment of decision. American battleships should engage, should block strait, should test Mark 8 in surface combat it was designed for, should prove 3 years of development in battle everyone anticipated. But Halsey makes decision that will be debated for decades. Takes fast battleships north chasing Japanese carrier decoys. Leaves San Bernardino Strait unguarded. New Jersey and Iowa race north with Halsey away from Kurita, away from Yamato, away from surface engagement that would test Mark 8 against intended target, away from opportunity to keep promise the way promise was meant to be kept. October 25th morning, battle off Samar. Kurita's battleships emerge from San Bernardino Strait. Encounter only escort carriers and destroyers. Should be massacre. Japanese battleships versus unarmored carriers. Mathematical certainty of Japanese victory. But American destroyers attack with desperate courage. Torpedo runs through overwhelming fire. Smoke screens, suicidal charges buying time. Creating confusion. Making Kurita believe he faces stronger opposition than actually exists. Yamato fires her 18-inch guns at escort carriers. Scores hits that should sink small ships immediately. But American damage control is excellent and luck favors desperate. Then Kurita makes decision that haunts history. Withdraws. Victory within grasp. Invasion fleet helpless, 12 miles away. 1 hour of gunfire wins strategic victory. But Kurita believes American reinforcements approaching. Believes airstrikes will destroy him at dawn. Believes risk exceeds reward, even though reward is winning battle that changes war. Turns away, withdraws, saves battleships, loses war. Chen aboard New Jersey racing north with Halsey receives reports hours later. Understands immediately what happened. Kurita withdrew. Yamato escaped. Mark 8 remains untested against primary target. Surface engagement everyone prepared for just did not happen. Japanese battleships survived not through superior armor, but through Kurita's caution and Halsey's error, and confusion of battle where everybody made mistakes, but Japanese mistakes proved more costly. The frustration is immense. Not just Chen, entire gunnery community, 3 years of development, perfect ammunition, loaded and ready, target presented, but circumstances prevented engagement. Japanese avoided battle through luck and caution, preserved force, survived to fight another day that will never come because opportunities like this do not repeat. Bill understands from Washington reading reports. Mark 8 will probably never face Yamato in surface combat. Japanese strategy is avoid decisive engagement, preserve force, delay, withdraw, die slowly rather than quickly. The battleship duel American doctrine anticipated is not happening. Will not happen. History is moving differently than planners expected. Carriers dominate. Aircraft decide battles. Surface combat becomes secondary. Technology arrived for war that ended before technology could be tested properly. But Mark 8 gets different opportunity, different test, different way to prove value even if not the way anyone expected. November 6, 1944. Off Philippines, Japanese heavy cruiser Kumano. Kumano limps damaged from Leyte Gulf. Torpedo hit. Flooding. Reduced speed. Trying to reach Manila for repairs. American surface forces pursue. New Jersey among them. Chen's opportunity. Not Yamato. Not even battleship. But Japanese heavy cruiser. 10,000 tons. 8-inch guns. Legitimate target. Enemy ship. Opportunity to test Mark 8 under real combat conditions even if not conditions anyone planned for. Chen requests permission engage with armor-piercing ammunition. Gets approval. Kumano is 10 miles away. Fleeing, damaged but dangerous. Can fight back. Chen orders Mark 8 loaded. First combat use of shells designed for different purpose but applicable here. Test under real combat stress. Real moving target. Real return fire possible. Everything that separates testing from combat compressed into this engagement. New Jersey fires. 6 guns from forward turrets. 6 Mark 8 shells arcing across 10 miles of Pacific Ocean. Range 20,000 yards. Flight time 40 seconds. Kumano fires back. 8-inch shells landing short. American 16-inch guns outrange Japanese 8-inch decisively. Asymmetric engagement favoring American technological superiority made possible by 3 years of metallurgical development. First 3 shells miss. Normal for long-range naval gunnery against moving target. Ocean, wind, target maneuvering. Fire control computing constantly. 4th shell hits, strikes Kumano amidships, does not explode externally, no immediate visible effect. Observers wonder if shell malfunction, if fuse failed, if 3 years of development just embarrassed American gunnery in combat debut, if promises are being broken instead of kept. Then precisely 33 milliseconds later, massive explosion erupts from Kumano's interior. Not surface detonation, internal explosion. Magazine detonation. Secondary explosions following. Entire midship section erupting in fire and smoke. The shell passed completely through Kumano's citadel before exploding on far side exactly as designed, breaking her keel, shattering internal structure, killing ship from within where armor cannot protect and damage control cannot reach. And physics makes survival impossible. Kumano breaks in half, sinks in 8 minutes. No prolonged death, no heroic damage control, no survival through superior construction, just catastrophic internal destruction that no armor prevents. Physics and metallurgy in 3 years of development working exactly as theory predicted. Shell worked, fuse worked, delayed detonation worked. Everything worked. Chen's report reaches Naval Gun Factory within 3 days. Bill reads it with emotions too complex for easy description. Success, vindication, proof, but not test anyone imagined. Not Yamato, not even Battleship. Heavy cruiser, different target than designed for, different engagement than planned for. But same result, Mark 8 works, kills ships by destroying them internally. Makes armor meaningless. Proves that precision defeats mass. Proves that American metallurgy answers Japanese construction. Proves that promises can be kept even when circumstances differ from plans. Elizabeth's reaction when Bill tells her combines relief with sadness. Relief that technology works. Understanding that Tom's death contributed to weapons saving American lives. But sadness that testing came through killing Japanese sailors who were also somebody's brothers and sons. War is not clean. Victory is not simple. Promises kept in blood carry weight that promises kept in laboratories do not. The shells work, but working means death delivered precisely and devastatingly to people who are enemies, but also human. Many of you watching may have fathers or grandfathers who served in the Pacific Fleet, who faced Japanese battleships or cruisers, who wondered if American weapons would work when needed. Did they speak about the moment they realized American engineering had caught up? Did they tell stories about shells that made enemy armor irrelevant? Share those memories below. These stories connect generations, show what American innovation and Allied cooperation achieve when we refuse to accept that impossible means permanent, when promises made in grief become weapons made with precision. Tell us what you remember, what you learned, what you carry forward. April 7, 1945, East China Sea, Operation Tengo. Yamato sails on suicide mission, sent with fuel for one-way trip to Okinawa, ordered to beach herself, fight as unsinkable fortress until destroyed, die gloriously defending homeland. Japanese desperation disguised as doctrine. The war is lost. Everyone knows. Tokyo is burning from firebombing. Islands are falling. American fleet approaches Japan itself. But death with honor matters more than survival in disgrace. Bushido demands this. Naval tradition demands this. Pride demands this even when strategic sense does not. Captain Takeshi Yamada stands in Yamato's gunnery control. 38 years old, career Navy, graduated at Tajima Naval Academy, 1929. 15 years believing in battleship supremacy, even as evidence accumulates otherwise. Yamato is ultimate expression of that belief. 72,000 tons, 18-inch guns, 16-inch armor, biggest, heaviest armed, best protected, should be unbeatable in surface engagement, should dominate any battle through pure superiority of mass and firepower, should embody everything Japanese naval doctrine values. But doctrine no longer matters. Reality matters. American submarines spotted Yamato yesterday departing Tokuyama. Radio intercepts confirmed American carriers launching hundreds of aircraft. The attack everyone knew was coming. The death everyone anticipated. Yamato steams toward Okinawa knowing she will die before arriving. Knowing this mission is suicide with extra steps. Knowing that honor demands dying fighting rather than dying in port when fuel runs out and American bombs find her anyway. The morning is beautiful. Clear sky, calm sea. The kind of day that makes war seem impossible until war makes itself undeniable. Yamato cuts through blue water, leaving white wake. Her engines run smoothly. Her crew is efficient. Everything works perfectly on ship. Doomed to die, not from mechanical failure, but from strategic obsolescence, an American air superiority and mathematics that favor attackers decisively. American aircraft arrived mid-morning. First wave, then second, then third, 380 planes from multiple carriers, dive bombers, torpedo planes, fighters, coordinated attacks overwhelming any defense. Yamato's anti-aircraft guns fire desperately. Some aircraft fall, smoke trails, splashes, but most continue. Too many, too coordinated, too determined, like swarm overwhelming prey through numbers that make individual resistance meaningless. Torpedoes strike port side systematically, not random hits, deliberate targeting. American pilots concentrate attacks on one side, creating progressive lists that damage control cannot compensate. Water floods compartments. Bulkheads strain, pumps work frantically. But physics is implacable. Each torpedo adds tons of water. Each hit increases list. Each minute brings Yamato closer to capsizing regardless of how well she was built, or how thick her armor is, or how brave her crew fights. Takeshi watches from fire control, sees American aircraft swarming, sees torpedoes running, sees hits accumulating, understands with terrible clarity that Yamato is dying, not from armor failure. Armor is holding perfectly, not from structural weakness. Ship is magnificently built, dying from strategic miscalculation, from building for war that no longer exists, from perfecting technology for battles that no longer happen, from being perfect answer to question nobody asks anymore. 2 hours of attacks, multiple torpedo hits on port side, several bomb penetrations, Yamato listing badly, taking water faster than pumps can remove it, machinery, spaces flooding, power failing. Still she fights. Still her guns fire at aircraft. Still her crew believes somehow armor will save them. But armor cannot stop aircraft, cannot prevent torpedoes from different angles, cannot defeat coordination and numbers, an American determination to destroy symbol of Japanese naval power. At 14:23 hours, massive forward magazine explosion. Detonation visible 70 miles away. Mushroom cloud rising thousands of feet. Yamato breaks apart from internal explosion that armor could not prevent. Sinks bow first, carrying over 3,000 crew into cold Pacific. Takeshi Yamada pulled from water by destroyer Fuyutsuki. One of few officers to survive. Survives to understand what dying means. What obsolescence feels like. What it costs to believe in technology after technology proves inadequate. Yamato died without facing American battleships, without testing her armor against Mark 8 shells, without surface engagement Japanese doctrine demanded and naval architects designed for and sailors trained for. Died from aircraft, from American carriers, from warfare that made battleships obsolete even while Bill Harrison perfected shells to kill them. Died proving that sometimes perfect weapons arrive for battles that no longer matter. That sometimes best technology becomes irrelevant before proving itself. That history moves faster than preparation sometimes. Bill receives news at Naval Gun Factory 2 days later. Yamato sunk by aircraft. No surface engagement. Mark 8 never tested against intended target. Feelings are complex mixture impossible to untangle. Relief, Yamato is dead. Frustration, Mark 8 never tested properly. Understanding that history moved faster than technology, that carriers and aircraft won before surface combat could be decisive. That 3 years of development created perfect weapon for battle that never happened the way anyone expected. But story is not over. Understanding waits, revelation pending, truth about what would have happened waiting to be discovered. Discovered through post-war examination of ships that survived. July 1946. Bikini Atoll. Battleship Nagato prepared for atomic bomb testing. Nagato survived war. Japanese battleship. Sister ship of Mutsu. Served entire war without facing American battleships in surface combat. Now sits at Bikini awaiting atomic weapon testing. Operation Crossroads. Demonstration of atomic power. But before tests destroy her, completely American engineers want to examine her. Study Japanese armor. Understand how their shells performed. Learn lessons that matter even though war is over. Bill travels to Bikini as civilian consultant. War ended. He is 41 years old. Returned to civilian metallurgy consulting. But Navy requests his expertise examining Nagato, wants him to see how Mark 8 performed against Japanese protection, wants metallurgists who design shells to understand results, even if results come from shore bombardment, incidental hits rather than deliberate surface engagement. What he finds stuns him into silence that lasts several minutes. Nagato shows multiple Mark 8 impacts, not from surface combat that never happened, from shore bombardment operations February 1945, when New Jersey was bombarding Iwo Jima in Nagato, was anchored nearby supporting Japanese garrison. Shells intended for land targets struck her incidentally. Wrong target, wrong circumstances. But damage patterns reveal extraordinary penetration that makes target identification irrelevant because physics cares only about velocity and armor thickness and metallurgy, not about intentions. One impact shows Mark 8 punched through 16 inches of face-hardened armor, exactly as designed, continued through 3 inches of structural steel backing, penetrated fuel bunker creating oil contamination, detonated inside ammunition storage room that fortunately was empty because crew had offloaded shells fearing American bombing. Total penetration depth over 40 feet through various protection layers that Japanese engineers designed to stop anything America could fire. Shell went through Nagato like tungsten needle through naval architecture, leaving hole that proved every assumption about armor protection was wrong. Bill photographs damage extensively, documents penetration angles, studies metallurgy of Japanese armor under magnification, discovers something remarkable that makes everything clear. Japanese steel composition differs significantly from American and British armor, optimized specifically to resist shells from Japanese and British naval guns based on captured ammunition samples in metallurgical analysis. Face hardening designed for specific impact characteristics. Backing plate composition calculated for specific penetrator materials. Sophisticated defensive system perfectly engineered to defeat weapons from 1935 to 1942. But accidentally perfectly vulnerable to Mark 8's specific alloy and heat treatment developed 1942 to 1944. Not intentional Japanese weakness. Lucky correspondence of incompatible metallurgical systems developed independently. Japanese armor optimized against threats they knew. American shells optimized against armor they studied. Neither side knowing the other's development until too late. Result is American penetration exceeding theoretical calculations because Japanese armor behaves differently under impact from American tungsten steel than it behaves under impact from conventional projectiles. Bill runs calculations over 3 days, modeling what would have happened if Iowa met Yamato in surface combat everyone expected, using actual penetration data from Nagato instead of theoretical estimates, using real fuse performance from combat use against Kumano, using measured impact characteristics from Dahlgren testing. Mathematics is brutal and unambiguous. Numbers tell story that needs no interpretation. Mark 8 would penetrate Yamato's armor at ranges exceeding 25,000 yards, would defeat 16-inch protection frontally with high probability of penetration and detonation, would create internal damage cascading through magazines and machinery spaces. Multiple hits would cause progressive flooding that damage control could not contain. Magazine explosions from delayed detonations below waterline. Structural collapse from keel damage. Yamato would die quickly once Iowa achieved firing solution. Not slowly, not heroically, just physics operating at velocities where armor thickness becomes irrelevant and protection becomes prison. American shells render Japanese armor not just inadequate, but counterproductive. Thickness that Japanese believe protected them actually multiplies damage by creating confined spaces where explosive force cannot escape, turns protection into trap, makes armor into liability. 16 inches of steel becomes container, ensuring maximum destructive effect from 40 pounds of explosive detonating inside compartments designed to protect crew. Bill Wright's report for Navy Department, classified initially, shared with senior officers who need to understand what technology achieved even though technology never faced intended test. Conclusion is stark and unambiguous. Had surface engagement occurred between Iowa-class and Yamato-class battleships, American victory would have been one-sided, not because American armor was thicker, not because American guns were bigger, because American ammunition made armor irrelevant. Mark 8 changed fundamental equation. Precision defeated mass. Innovation defeated tradition. American metallurgy answered Japanese armor definitively, even though answer was never delivered in combat everyone expected. Elizabeth reads Bill's report months later after declassification, understands that her brother's death contributed to weapon that would have saved countless American sailors had surface combat occurred. That promise made in grief created technology ending Japanese naval superiority. That Tom's question was answered even though Tom never knew. That promises matter even when those you promise to do not survive to see fulfillment. That engineering serves humanity even when humans it serves cannot be named or counted or thanked individually. September 1946, Yokosuka Naval Base, Japan. Post-war occupation. Captain Takeshi Yamada stands before American investigators. Not war crimes interrogations. Technical testimony. Describing Japanese naval operations. Explaining tactics. Sharing understanding of why Japan lost. He is cooperative, defeated but not broken. Understands that war is over and cooperation serves Japan's future better than resistance serves Japan's past. Investigator shows him photographs. Nagato damage analysis. American metallurgists report on Mark 8 penetration. Simulations showing what would have happened in surface engagement that never occurred. Numbers devastating him more thoroughly than any military defeat. More completely than Yamato's sinking. More profoundly than surrender documents signed in Tokyo Bay. Takeshi spent entire career believing battleship supremacy, believing armor thickness equals survival, believing Japanese engineering superior to American mass production. Yamato represented ultimate expression of that philosophy. Biggest battleship ever built, most heavily armed, best protected, should have been invincible in surface combat, should have dominated any engagement through pure superiority of protection and firepower, should have embodied everything Japanese naval tradition valued. But American shells made all of it meaningless, not through matching Japanese armor thickness, through negating it entirely, through penetrating and detonating internally where no armor protects and no engineering prevents catastrophic damage, through changing rules instead of playing by Japanese assumptions, through understanding that defeating armor matters more than matching armor. Takeshi speaks to American investigators with honesty born from defeat's clarity. Pride is gone. Replacement is understanding purchased through catastrophe. We built Yamato to be unsinkable, designed her armor to resist any shell we thought you could fire based on captured ammunition and intelligence estimates from 1930s. But we designed for war we knew. Not war you fought. Your delayed fuse shells never occurred to us. Your superior metallurgy exceeded our projections. Your collaborative development with British combined strengths we could not counter individually. These changed everything fundamentally. Made our armor into liability rather than protection. Made our protection into prison rather than fortress. We thought thickness mattered. You proved precision mattered more. You proved innovation defeats tradition. You proved collaboration beats isolation. He pauses, emotion breaking through professional reserve that Japanese officers maintain even in defeat. I survived Yamato's sinking. 3,000 shipmates did not. I thought we died from aircraft superiority, from American carrier dominance, from air power making battleships obsolete. But seeing your Mark 8 shell data, I understand different truth. We would have died anyway if Yamato met Iowa in surface combat. Your shells would have killed us in minutes, penetrated our armor, detonated inside our ship, created damage we could not control. Our armor would not have saved us, would have ensured our destruction by containing explosive force. Battle we prepared for our entire careers would have been massacre. I am grateful that battle never happened, not because we survived, because quick death from aircraft was more merciful than slow death from internal explosions tearing ship apart from within while armor prevents escape. American investigators ask if he would meet engineer who designed Mark 8. Takeshi answers without hesitation. Yes, very much yes. I would like to shake his hand. Engineer to engineer, professional to professional. He solved problem we could not solve, created weapon we could not counter, did his job excellently. War is over, enmity can end. Professional respect for excellence remains regardless of which side someone served. I respect competence. I respect innovation. I respect someone who changed warfare through superior understanding rather than superior mass. The investigators note this carefully. Pass message through channels. Bill receives it months later. Japanese naval officer wants to meet him, wants to acknowledge American metallurgical superiority, wants professional closure. Bill agrees. Not immediately, not while wounds are fresh for either side, but eventually, when time heals enough, when reconciliation becomes possible, when former enemies can meet as colleagues rather than combatants. May 8, 1945. VE Day. Germany surrenders. War in Europe ends. Harrison kitchen in Annapolis. Elizabeth makes celebration dinner even though Bill is still in Washington. He comes home that evening. Pacific War continues, but European War is over. Half the war won. Bill walks into kitchen smelling like peace approaching. Elizabeth made celebration food. Fried chicken, golden brown coating crackling under fork pressure. The sound of crust shattering. Corn on the cob, butter melting in yellow rivers down hot kernels. The smell of butter and salt in summer. Mashed potatoes whipped smooth. Green beans. Dinner rolls warm from oven. Apple pie for dessert with vanilla ice cream melting into warm filling. Coca-Cola in glass bottles, sweating condensation in spring heat. The sounds of family eating together after years of separation and worry. Forks on plates, soft conversation. Relief, not celebration exactly. War continues in Pacific, but recognition that American engineering and American soldiers and American allies are winning. That promises made are being kept. That brothers are coming home even though Tom will never come home. They eat slowly, savoring, not just food, moment, understanding that this kitchen represents what was fought for. American family eating American food in American peace. What Tom died protecting, what Bill's engineering preserved. Fried chicken and corn and apple pie and Coca-Cola. Abundance, normalcy. Simple pleasures that totalitarian enemies tried to destroy and democratic allies defended successfully. Bill thinks about Mark 8, about 3 years of work, about promises made over a different meal in this same kitchen, about Tom's question whether American metallurgy was ready, about answer delivered through shells that work even though shells never faced intended target, about understanding that bringing people home matters more than technical perfection in laboratory conditions. August 15, 1945. Japan surrenders. War ends completely. The Harrison kitchen again. This time both of them crying. Relief, gratitude, understanding that war is finally over, that young men stop dying, that families stay whole, that promises made in December 1941 are fully kept in August 1945, not kept the way anyone expected, not through surface duel between Iowa and Yamato, but kept through superior technology, enabling superior strategy, enabling victory that brings everyone home who survived. Elizabeth speaks through tears that are not sad. Tom has been dead almost 4 years. Feels like yesterday. Feels like lifetime ago, both simultaneously. Your promise kept him alive for me. Not literally, but spiritually. Knowing you worked to prevent others dying the way he died. Knowing American engineering answered Japanese attack. Knowing metallurgy mattered. Knowing precision defeated mass. That kept Tom's memory alive as something meaningful rather than just tragic. Thank you for keeping promise. Thank you for 3 years of work most people will never know about. Thank you for being an American engineer who solves impossible problems because families need them solved. They sit in kitchen where promise was made, where Tom's last letter was read, where grief became purpose, where impossible became possible through refusal to accept that impossible means permanent. Bacon smell is gone, apple pie is gone, but memory remains. Memory of December 7th, 1941, when everything changed. Memory of promise made. Memory of 3 years working to keep promise. Memory that keeps Tom alive, even though Tom died before promise could save him. 1965. Bill Harrison retires from aerospace consulting. Age 53, early retirement. Earned it. Retirement party held at Naval Gun Factory where Mark 8 was developed. Same building, same laboratories. Different war now. Cold War, nuclear weapons, missiles. But some people remember battleships, remember armor-piercing shells, Remember promises kept through metallurgy. Admiral Chen, now 73 years old and long retired, gives speech. Voice still strong, memory clear. Commander Harrison saved American lives. Not in combat directly, in laboratory indirectly. By refusing to accept that Japanese battleship superiority was permanent. By collaborating with British metallurgists. By developing shells that made armor irrelevant through precision rather than mass. We never got surface engagement we prepared for. Yamato died from aircraft before Mark VIII could be tested against her in battle. But post-war analysis proves our shells would have won decisively had circumstances allowed battle. That matters. Technology preventing battles through superiority is as valuable as technology winning battles through effectiveness. Bill Harrison's Mark VIII prevented battles by making Japanese understand that meeting Iowa meant dying. Deterrence through superiority. That wins wars. Elizabeth adds words carrying weight of 30 years understanding what drove her husband through frustrations and failures and final success. Bill promised me December 7, 1941, that no more American sailors would die helpless like my brother Tom died. That promise was kept. Mark VIII shells made Japanese armor obsolete before Japanese battleships could kill more Americans in surface combat. Changed naval warfare fundamentally. Tom died on Arizona before American metallurgy was ready. But Tom's death ensured American metallurgy became ready. Ensured American engineering answered Japanese advantages. That is legacy worth having. That is promise worth keeping. That is love expressed through metallurgy and mathematics in bringing people home. Bill gives brief speech, characteristically modest, deflecting credit, sharing recognition. I am metallurgist. I solve problems using science and mathematics. In 1941, problem was Japanese battleship armor. Solution was Mark VIII shell, but real solution was deeper. Was refusing to accept superiority as permanent. Was collaborating with British allies. Was understanding that precision defeats mass when precision is applied correctly. Was keeping promise made in grief that American engineering answers Japanese advantages. Promise was kept even though battle we prepared for never happened. Sometimes best victories are battles prevented rather than battles won. Sometimes best technology is technology making war unnecessary by making victory certain. After retirement, Bill buys Cadillac, 1965 model, pale blue, chrome everywhere, fins. Pure American automotive excess. Drives Elizabeth to Baltimore. Orioles playing Yankees at Memorial Stadium. Seats behind first base. Hot dogs. Coca-Cola. Seventh inning stretch. Take me out to the ball game. American normalcy. Tom never experienced. American peace bills engineering helped achieve. The crack of wooden bat on ball. The smell of cut grass and peanuts in summer. Announcer's voice over loudspeakers. Fans cheering. Everything normal. Everything peaceful. Everything that war threatened and peace restored. Bill and Elizabeth sit in sunshine eating hot dogs and drinking Coca-Cola and watching baseball. This is what it was all for. Not technical achievement, not professional recognition. This, normal American afternoon, family together, peace preserved, promises kept. August 1962, Naval War College, Newport, Rhode Island. International Conference on Naval Warfare Evolution. Cold War requires former enemies becoming current allies. Japanese invited, NATO partners. Shared security concerns about Soviet Union. Understanding that yesterday's enemies must become today's friends because tomorrow's threats require cooperation, transcending past conflicts. Conference program lists participants. Takeshi Yamada attends. Now 56 years old. Post-war career in civilian maritime engineering. Survived Yamato. Built new life in reconstructed Japan. Allied with America against communism. But never forgot. Never stopped wondering about American engineer whose weapon would have killed him had history arranged meeting differently. Takeshi sees name on participant list. Commander William Harrison retired. Metallurgical consultant. The American who designed Mark VIII. Man whose shells would have destroyed Yamato had surface engagement occurred. Man Takeshi wanted to meet for 17 years. Man who answered questions Takeshi did not know to ask until defeat taught him. Takeshi approaches Bill during coffee break. Conference hall. Americans and Japanese and Europeans mixing. Former enemies drinking coffee together. NATO partners, allied against communism. World has changed. Enmity transformed into partnership. War replaced by cooperation. Future looking different than past. Bill recognizes Takeshi from photographs and intelligence reports. Yamato gunnery officer. Survivor, now colleague. Former enemy, current friend potentially. Commander Harrison. I am Takeshi Yamada, former Yamato gunnery officer. Your Mark 8 shell would have killed me if we met in surface combat. I wanted to thank you for not meeting me. For history, arranging that aircraft killed Yamato before your shells could. I wanted to shake your hand. Bill studies Takeshi carefully. Sees former enemy. Sees current colleague. Sees engineer who understands that technology transcends politics when technology is understood properly. Extends hand without hesitation. Captain Yamada, I am glad you survived. Glad surface engagement never happened. Glad we can meet as colleagues rather than combatants. War is over. Technology I developed was for that war, for those circumstances. Today we face different challenges. Better to build together than destroy separately. They talk for 2 hours about metallurgy, about armor design philosophy, about Japanese engineering emphasis on protection versus American engineering emphasis on penetration, about parallel developments that never intersected in combat, about what would have happened had circumstances been different, about understanding that sometimes not fighting is victory more profound than fighting and winning. Takeshi explains Japanese perspective with honesty possible only after defeat and reconstruction and alliance. We believe bigger was better. Yamato embodied that belief. 72,000 tons, 18-inch guns, 16-inch armor, all designed to dominate through mass, designed to win through superiority of protection and firepower. But you Americans thought differently, understood that matching our armor thickness was unnecessary, that penetrating it was sufficient, that delayed detonation multiplied effectiveness, that precision mattered more than size, that philosophy difference decided war before battles determined anything. Your thinking defeated our building. Your innovation defeated our tradition. That is a lesson I carry forward. Bill responds with understanding that comes from victory examined rather than victory celebrated without thought. We collaborated. British metallurgy, American manufacturing. Neither alone was sufficient. Together unstoppable. That is a lesson worth remembering. Cooperation defeats competition when cooperation is genuine. Partnership beats isolation when partnership is real. That one war, that builds peace. Japan is ally now. Former enemies working together against new threats. That matters more than who designed better shells in 1943. Matters more than who won war in 1945. What matters now is building future together rather than destroying each other again. Takeshi agrees completely. They exchange addresses, correspond afterward, Christmas cards, technical papers shared, 2 engineers finding friendship across what was once enmity, finding proof that warfare serves temporary politics, but humanity transcends temporary conflicts, finding understanding that professional respect matters more than national origin when professionals meet as equals. For those whose family members served in Pacific Fleet or faced Japanese naval forces, or came home because American engineering gave them fighting chance, share that story below. Tell us how promises kept in grief became weapons that saved lives. Tell us about engineers solving impossible problems. These stories connect us to generation that understood promises matter more than everything else. Generation that kept promises regardless of cost. Tell us what you remember, what you learned, what you carry forward from Americans who understood that bringing people home matters more than technical specifications or professional recognition or anything else. 2024 USS New Jersey Museum, Camden, New Jersey. New Jersey sits permanently moored as museum ship. Visitors tour battleship that served 4 wars: Korea, Vietnam, Lebanon, Gulf War, recommissioned repeatedly because good ships stay good. Finally retired 1991 when battleships became completely obsolete in missile age. Now teaches history instead of making it. Deep in magazine spaces, Mark 8 shells remain on display. Inert, painted, labeled with technical specifications most visitors do not understand. Just old ammunition from old wars fought with old weapons. But naval engineers know what they see. Those shells represent moment when metallurgy changed warfare fundamentally, when precision defeated mass decisively, when American innovation answered Japanese superiority definitively. Placard reads carefully. Words chosen to explain technical achievement while honoring human purpose behind technology. Mark 8 armor-piercing shell, developed 1942 to 1944 by Commander William Harrison and team in collaboration with British metallurgists, designed to penetrate Japanese battleship armor through delayed internal detonation. First combat use November 1944 against cruiser Kumano. Never tested against intended target Yamato, which was sunk by aircraft April 1945. Post-war analysis proved Mark 8 would have decisively defeated Japanese battleship armor. Legacy demonstrates precision engineering defeats brute force, influenced all subsequent armor-piercing weapon development. School groups visit. Children touch shells carefully. Teachers explain history. Docent tells story. Retired Navy captain, 70 years old, served destroyers during Cold War. Never fired Mark 8, never fought battleships. But understands what shells represent. This shell weighed 2,700 pounds, traveled 15 miles at 2,500 feet per second, punched through 16 inches of armor, detonated internally, destroyed ships from within where armor could not protect, changed how navies thought about protection fundamentally. If you cannot protect against best weapons, why carry heavy armor at all? That question ended battleship era, started missile age. This shell represents transition point. Last generation of naval artillery perfected just as naval artillery became obsolete. Perfect weapon arriving for war that ended before weapon could prove itself. Child asked question, cutting to everything important. Did it work? Docent answers with wisdom from career, understanding what works means in context beyond testing. It worked perfectly, but never faced test it was designed for. Japanese battleship Yamato sank from aircraft, not from these shells. But after war engineers proved these shells would have won that battle decisively had battle happened. Sometimes best weapons are those preventing battles through superiority. Sometimes knowing you will lose is enough to avoid fighting. That is victory too. Deterrence through superiority. That wins wars without fighting. Museum displays more than shells, displays letters. Bill Harrison's correspondence with Elizabeth. Tom Bennett's last letter from Arizona. Photographs of Bill and Takeshi shaking hands in 1962. Evidence that promises matter. That engineering serves humanity. That former enemies become current friends when warfare ends and humanity continues. William Harrison died 2001, age 88. Elizabeth died 2004, age 98. Chen died 2008, age 96. Takeshi Yamada died 1998, age 92. All lived long lives. Saw Cold War end. Saw former enemies become permanent allies, saw technology advance beyond anything they imagined. But legacy is not longevity. Legacy is philosophy. Mark 8 shell proved that precision defeats mass, that innovation beats tradition, that thinking differently matters more than thinking bigger, that American engineering philosophy of solving problems through intelligence rather than matching enemy capabilities represents sustainable competitive advantage that wins wars and builds peace. Harrison family established scholarship at Naval Academy, 2002. William Harrison Memorial Scholarship for Naval Engineering Excellence. Full tuition for midshipmen studying metallurgy and materials science. Requirements emphasize innovation, international collaboration, humanitarian applications, understanding that technology serves people rather than people serving technology. Scholarship recipients over 22 years, number 38 midshipmen. They study advanced materials, develop improved protective systems for ships and sailors, create technologies saving lives. Exactly what Bill did. Exactly what scholarship intends. Continuing legacy of innovation serving humanity rather than humanity serving innovation. William Harrison III, great-grandson, age 24, midshipman at Naval Academy, studies materials science, continues family tradition, keeps family promise, works on next-generation protective systems. Different threats, different technologies. Same principle. Bring people home through superior engineering applied with wisdom and purpose. He keeps photograph on desk. Bill and Elizabeth Harrison, 1945. Tom Bennett's last letter framed beside it. Reminders that technology is personal, that engineering serves families, that promises made in grief drive innovations that save thousands. That legacy is not just what you achieve, but what continues afterward through people carrying forward understanding that some things matter more than everything else. Beneath photograph quote from original Bill Harrison summarizing everything. Promises made in grief become weapons that save lives when promises are kept through engineering excellence. Technology made for war serves peace when war ends, and technology continues serving humanity. Innovation defeats tradition when innovation serves people rather than serving itself. That is what Mark 8 represented. Not just better shell, better philosophy, precision over mass, intelligence over strength, collaboration over competition. Those principles win wars. Those principles build peace. Those principles endure when wars end and weapons become museum displays and warriors become memories. The promise continues. Generation to generation, Harrison to Harrison, engineer to engineer, American to American. That is legacy, not tungsten and explosives gathering dust in museums, but understanding that promises matter, that families preserved justify any work required, that bringing people home matters more than winning battles or achieving technical perfection or gaining professional recognition. Mark 8 shell sits in museums across America, silent, inert. Monument to arms race won before being fired at intended target. Symbol of battleship era ending just as battleship technology peaked. Reminder that history moves faster than development sometimes. That perfect weapons arrive for battles that no longer happen. That deterrence through superiority matters as much as victory through combat. Those shells represent more than metallurgy. Represent philosophy that precision defeats mass. That innovation beats tradition. That American engineering thinks differently about problems. Solves problems rather than matching enemy solutions. Changes rules rather than playing by enemy assumptions. That philosophy won World War II. Built Cold War deterrence. Continues shaping how America approaches challenges today. Promises matter. Americans keep them. Through engineering, through innovation, through refusal to accept that impossible means anything permanent, through understanding that technology serves humanity when technology works correctly, through knowing that promises made in grief save thousands never met when promises drive engineering excellence, through carrying forward understanding that bringing people home matters more than anything else that technology can achieve. Bill Harrison made promise December 7, 1941, kept it through Mark 8 development, proved it through post-war analysis, extended it through scholarship. Legacy continues through great-grandsons studying at Naval Academy, through engineers developing protective systems, through understanding that promises made become technologies created, become lives saved, become legacy preserved across generations. That is America at its finest. Not biggest weapons, best promises, and keeping them. Always, no matter how hard, no matter how long, no matter whether the battle happens or whether deterrence prevents battle. Promises matter. Technology serves them. Lives are saved. Families stay whole. That is what the ghost bullet really means. Promise kept. Engineering delivered. Precision defeated mass. Innovation changed warfare. Philosophy transcended technology and continues transcending technology today. The ghost bullet was tungsten in physics. The promise behind it was love and family, an American commitment to never accepting helplessness as permanent. That promise continues. That commitment endures. That is America. That is the legacy. That is what matters when shells become museum pieces and veterans die and history becomes lessons rather than memories. Promises kept. People brought home. Families preserved. That is everything.